So the first three items on this tab are reports that show your proposals pipeline, your year-to-date fundraising projection report, and your prospects pipeline. All of these reports can easily be exported as a PDF with this button at the bottom so that you can have a already formatted, automatically up-to-date PDF to share with managers, board members, or other people in your organization's network that will help with your fundraising and networking efforts. Because these three are common reports containing common information you'd want to share with those people. So the proposals pipeline report shows all the proposals you're currently working on that have a status of drafting to draft in review or reviewed. And they're sorted by deadline date with the proposals with deadlines on the top and rolling submissions below. Once you mark a proposal as submitted, it will no longer appear in the proposals pipeline. From here, you can add a new proposal or export a PDF of the proposal pipeline report. The year-to-date fundraising projection report shows a snapshot of your current fundraising projection for the fiscal year. This is often a particularly helpful report to share at board meetings. So the first part of the report lists the grants that you've been awarded so far this year. Shows a pie chart breaking it down between government, corporate, and foundation funding. And the second part of the report projects how much additional grant funding you'll raise this year based on your proposal pipeline, which is a pretty useful and powerful thing to do. It does this by assigning a likelihood score to each proposal, and that's based on your assessment of the proposal's competitiveness and alignment with your work. And we can see in the pop-up here exactly how that's calculated. If you don't make a selection for either of those options, the default likelihood score will be 50%. And you can always change your assessments of a proposal's competitiveness or alignment. So for example, let's do that here. And then the likelihood score will automatically be updated. And then the sum of the amount of the request times the likelihood score when those are added up is your projected additional fundraising total for the rest of the year. So the third report, the prospects pipeline, lists prospects or funders you've identified as potentially interested in your work. And this is based on your selection of the funder's status. So one useful thing I'll point out is this link to the explanation of how to choose your funder status. There's a funder status tree that you can just follow a couple questions to determine what the status should be. Is it possible for your organization to receive a grant from this funder? If you're not sure, the status is to research further. If no, it's probably not possible, but you want to stay in touch with them for networking or other reasons, we'll call it a friendly funder. If it's not possible and you're not really interested, we'll just call it not currently pursuing. If it is possible for you to, you know that it's possible for you to receive a grant from the funder, then we're going to categorize it based on whether you have a connection, a person you can actually speak with at that funder. If the answer is yes, then we label it as active prospect, contact. And if the answer is no, then it's an identified prospect that has potential, someone that you would like to make a connection to or be introduced to. So the first status group is active contacts. So these are funders that you think could potentially fund your organization where you are already in contact with the organization. The next group are the priority introductions wanted. So these are funders that you have identified as good potential prospects, but you do not yet have a contact or an introduction there. This is also often a useful list to share with board members or supporters of your organization of strong networks. The last section are funders you've identified as potential prospects and where you don't have a contact, but you have not marked as a priority introduction. And you can always move funders between these two groups by checking or unchecking the priority introduction box. And if you have an organization that you're in touch with, but you don't think that they are a potential funder for your organization, you can move them off of this report by changing their status to friendly funder. And one other thing to point out is that when you're setting up your Grantamigo account, you can upload a list of funders rather than entering them all in one by one here by just using the template that's provided and then saving that as a CSV and uploading it here. Now, the next item is your first list, which is the research list, which includes funders that you've classified with the status to research further. So as an example, let's change the status of this funder to research further. And now we see that it appears on your research list. This is often a useful list to share with interns or with staff members who have time to spend time researching prospects. After you've researched them, the prospects should be classified as identified prospect, active contact, or friendly funder. And if you want to move them off all of those lists, you can just change the status to not pursuing. And then that will move the funder to the list in your archives called funders not currently pursuing. You can also use this template link to upload a list of research funders as well. And finally, your list of past and current funders is often a helpful reference list. So current funders includes all your funders with grant awards that you've entered that have a grant period that includes today's date. So before we go to the next page, let's take a look at what a funder profile page looks like. So let's look at this local bank and click on the Go to Funder profile. So the funder profile page shows more information about the funder that then appears in the funder pop-up. On the profile, you can see their basic information, which you can edit in the pop-up. And then you can see any pending, not yet completed tasks related to that funder. You can see proposals to that funder that you have in progress, as well as any past proposals that you may submitted to them. You can see the contacts that you've entered at this funder that work at that funder or prospect. You can edit them there. You can also use this as a CRM tool to keep track of your conversations and contacts with the funder. So for example, I'll add something here, sent him an email today to follow up. And then that gets saved in the contact log. Finally, it shows all the grants that this funder has ever awarded you and any reports that are due. And you can always add new reports or awards or contacts or proposals from the funder's profile page as well. So next, let's move to our grant proposal content library, which is one of the most powerful parts of the whole Grantamigo platform.